you're trying to make a point to say, look, have a look again. Why are you on your knees? And the interesting thing was that how controversial it is now to say get off your knees. And I wasn't just talking about Christianity.
Right.
I was talking about anything that puts you on your knees knees to authority, on your knees to royalty, on your knees to some religious hero. We need to look life and the world and reality in the eye, not looking up from a kneeling position.
Yeah,
but
that kneeling
the fact that it's become so controversial, and you get so much abuse for saying human race get off your knees, which is a title of one of my books from a few years ago, is says it all, really.
Welcome to Far Out with Faust, everybody. I am Faust Chicho, and today I'm honored and excited and delighted to be joined once again by David Icke. He's not just a conspiracy realist, he's the conspiracy realist. He's dedicated the last 30 years of his life to meticulously investigating, researching, questioning, and documenting who and what is really controlling this world. David has authored over 20 books and spoken in over 25 countries. His books have been profoundly consistent in a great many ways. His incredibly accurate predictions of global events and his promotion of expanded consciousness, mindfulness, peace, and unity have resonated with millions of people all around the world, and he continues to gain in notoriety and popularity as the things that he has been saying for decades continue to come to fruition before our eyes. If you want to get to know him beyond this podcast, you can watch a wonderful documentary called Renegade, the life story of David Icke. He has series on Gaia. He has his own iconic media network streaming app site now, which I'm a subscriber to. And in his latest book, The Reveal, David goes deeper down the rabbit hole of consciousness and reality than ever before, questioning the answers that we have been spoon-fed our entire lives in a way that only one such as him could. So without further ado, David, thank you so much for beaming in again with me.
Thank you. It's nearly 30 books now, by the way.
My God.
I keep turning them out. It's amazing. It's inevitable, really, because of the way I work, because I always work on the basis that whatever I know, there's always more to know. So that attitude, if you like, keeps you pushing, wanting to go beyond the cutting edge, and
yes,
you want to know what you don't know, and that is a great driver. And what it means is the rabbit hole just goes deeper and deeper and deeper.
Indeed, it does. And there's just when you think it's that's got to be the end of it, they pop out and there's another one right there waiting for you.
Yeah.
But so I am so fascinated with this most recent book. So I keep finding, because I'm a 911 researcher, and I just found the trigger, and I'm knee deep in that book. But I wanted to get through The Reveal first for this interview, because my research on those events of 9/11, are for a different thing. But I've been learning more and more of the history of the Abrahamic religions, and having been raised Catholic and grown out of it, you can certainly, I would say I am biased against religions in general, because I see the harm that they have caused this planet and the great division that they create in people. But you talk a lot about, and you probably know more than most people about some of the origins of these religions, which billions of people on our planet today subscribe to in one shape or another, or identify with, right? And I'm continuously learning and fascinated by who and what they are actually worshiping, and if they have any idea what that is. And you said something in you were speaking about simulation theory in your book, and you said, if we drop the idea that human reality and the astral are the creation of, quote, the divine, then we can bring together both the creator and human science once we see that these realities are the simulated work of the biblical opposition to the divine. And I was like, what? I was trying to break that down and figure out what you mean when you say that. Like, do you believe that life is somehow being kind of created and perpetrated on us by something that is in opposition to the creator?
Yeah. It's a case really of just taking a deep breath, taking a step back and looking at it again dispassionately, without all the preconceived programming that we get from cradle to grave in terms of our belief system and our perception of reality. Just look at it again dispassionately. And so you look around the world and you see enormous, vast, fantastic numbers of people who are having anything but a good time. They're trying to survive another day. They're under bombs in Gaza. They're starving. They're going to bed hungry, and their kids are going to bed hungry. It's a world in which there is enormous amounts of suffering, of fear, of conflict in all its different forms. And so the first question you ask is, would a force of love create this? Well, my response immediately is, of course not. So what did? And then you look at common patterns. I'm always looking for common patterns of agreement. Yes, you look for patterns of disagreement. They'll tell you certain things, but patterns of agreement tell you about certain themes which everyone seems to be agreed on, ancient and modern. And so if you look at the religions, you have Christianity. It believes that there is a force, quote, an anti-God force, which they call Satan or the devil.
Right.
Which has underlings they call demons. Mm-hmm. You look at Islam, they talk about a negative force they call shaitan or iblis, with underlings they call jinn. You look at the Gnostic belief system out of Egypt and other parts of the world, Greece. And they talk about a negative force they call the demiurge or Yaldabaoth, and underlings they call archons, which is Greek for rulers, and on it goes. And I've talked to people like Credo Mutwa, the great Zulu shaman, who was the official historian of the Zulu nation. I've talked to him at length many, many times. And they have a similar belief. And what it breaks down to is this. A force outside of the human scene, which is almost everything in existence, we might get into that, that is manipulating human society in a non-benevolent way, shall we say. So when you then take that and you think, well, is it not more likely that that force will have created this world that we experience, or a loving God? And the more that my research has gone on over 35 years now, the more not only has that become obvious to me, but the means through which it's done has become more and more visible, and you're able to see how it's done as I go into in the reveal. So when I look, for instance, at the Old Testament, I see a God described in the Old Testament that's basically bloodthirsty in many ways, in many instances, and certainly deeply unpleasant. Now, is that likely to be a loving God that's being described, or the very force that I'm talking about? And this is where religion in and of itself has become a force for control. I've described religion many times over the years as the greatest form of mind control ever invented. Why? Because it's selling a belief system. It doesn't matter if it's Christianity or Islam or Hinduism. It doesn't matter, and all the others. And by the way, as I mentioned in the reveal, of the what we're told is 8 billion people on the planet, 5.4 billion follow one of those religions, one of those three religions, never mind all the others. So what is that? Why is that a problem in terms of seeing the world for what it is? Because and you know, the so-called alternative media, which I say has been hijacked since COVID, very demonstrably, and more so all the time, is very much based, not least in America, but elsewhere too, but especially in America, North America, it's dominated by the Christian religion.
Right.
Now, this means that researchers who are seeking understanding about the world, who runs it, how it's run, what it's ultimately run by, have major areas that they will not consider, they will not go into, because if they do, their religious belief system will be under challenge. So I don't care if you're a Christian researcher that's unquestioning of their religion, or a Muslim researcher, or a Hindu researcher, or any of them. If you have no-go areas where you will not research no matter where the information is taking you, then you're not going to uncover what's happening in the world, because you won't go where so many of those answers lie. And that's the problem. You know, it's like, you know, I've said so many times, people having different belief systems is not a problem.
Right.
People seeking to impose those belief systems on other people is the problem.
Yes.
And compounded by the fact that if you have a religious belief system, and it's not just religion either, it's a political belief system, a cultural belief system, whatever, that is unquestionable, that is rigid, that is immovable, then you are literally self-censoring your own research, your own perceptions, so that your belief system survives where the evidence is taking you. And so for me, if you are researching and seeking out what's happening in the world, who controls it, how and why, then, and who are we, where are we, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Then you have to have a mind that is willing to go anywhere, that is not attached to some belief system, any belief system, that lets the information and your experience and your intuitive perception be your guide and not preconceived idea.
Yeah, because it's fear. It's fear that will keep you from that knowledge, from going into those places which are going to expand your understanding. And I see it all the time. You know, it's amazing how people, the moment they catch wind that they're venturing into, you know, something that is, you know, they've been conditioned to believe is taboo, something you're not supposed to talk about, something you're not supposed to investigate, because something would have to be wrong with you if you were going to question those events, right? I see people, they dig their heels in and they're like, whoa, you know, they immediately disengage. You know, the prison in their mind just reveals itself. And I'm always like, wow, that was quick. how fast you are no longer interested in continuing this conversation.
It is an immediate reaction. It's like, change the subject, don't want to talk about it. My belief system could come under question if you go on. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you an interesting experience. I've had this very week. Whether you saw it, but there was one of these Tucker Carlson events where the invited guest, it was in Arizona, Phoenix, I suppose, was Russell Brand. And Russell Brand's just discovered religion, as so many of
my chagrin.
The so-called alternative media, what I call the mainstream alternative media, that which has been hijacked and gets all the algorithmic support and all the promotion, and as we've seen this week with various revelations, all the money. They have very much become even more religion, Christian centered, and Russell Brand, of course, has just discovered religion in Christianity, and he's been baptized in the Thames and all that stuff.
I saw that.
And he, at the end of this event, got down on his knees and did a prayer with Carlson. And I just responded to that by saying, assume the position, humanity, because this is where they want you. And, and what I got was enormous abuse from Christian believers, which I expected. I mean, I didn't do it and then thought, oh, no, what funny reaction. No, I knew it was coming. But you do it anyway. That's the whole point about freedom and freedom of speech and freedom of thought, is you don't go through this mental gymnastics of, if I say this, how will people react? You can pretty much predict how they react, but you do it anyway because you're trying to make a point, not out of viciousness and or anything like that. You're trying to make a point to say, look, have a look again. Why are you on your knees? And the interesting thing was that how controversial it is now to say get off your knees. And I wasn't just talking about Christianity.
Right.
I was talking about anything that puts you on your knees knees to authority, on your knees to royalty, on your knees to some religious hero. We need to look life and the world and reality in the eye, not looking up from a kneeling position.
Yeah,
but
that kneeling
the fact that it's become so controversial, and you get so much abuse for saying human race get off your knees, which is a title of one of my books from a few years ago, says it all, really. And so what we've seen since COVID, for instance, is the alternative media central core that gets all the promotion and all the attention has been hijacked, and it's been hijacked overwhelmingly by mainstream people who've come in from the mainstream since COVID. Most of whom actually bought the COVID hoax when it was happening, and now are kind of anti-COVID vaccine heroes.
Yeah.
And what you've seen is this solidification of the attention on what is the conspiracy. Right. And it's basically right-wing politics and religion. And these are two rigid belief systems that if you fall for them, and I'm talking about left wing as well, same thing, or any other religion, if you fall for them, then you're in the prison cell, the perceptual prison cell. Right. It may be a slightly different one to the mainstream population. You may realize there's some kind of conspiracy going on, and Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates are involved in it as gophers anyway. But in terms of the big picture that I lay out in the reveal, and there's more and more and more to know beyond that, then you're out the game. And anyone that focuses their attention on the same thing and thinks that's what the conspiracy is also out the game. And, you know, this is my feeling as I've observed this. When COVID happened, especially as more and more has come out, that people like me and others were pointed out at the time, then more and more people have had a re-evaluation of how they see the world.
Right.
They started to realize that maybe the way they saw it before isn't how it is, and maybe that these people they thought were running it, like prime ministers and presidents, are not actually running it. Maybe there's a force behind them. There is, and it goes very, very deep, much deeper than most people can conceive. And you know, what happens is awakening. I never talk about people being awake. I never talk about myself being awake. We are awakening. This is the same principle as whatever I know, there's always more to know. So you are awakening. And what happens is you go through a series of awakenings.
Yes.
The first one is you realize the world's not like you thought it was because it's not controlled by the people you thought were controlling it. Right. But there's other awakenings that follow that, and eventually you start to see the panorama of the picture, always knowing there's always more to know. But what has happened, you see, is that if you are this global cult that as I call it, this global network of secret societies that's running this show in the shadows, well, running this show on behalf of something much deeper, then you look at what happened during COVID and you go, well, look, what happened was we made it so obvious to so many people. And of course, we're continuing that now as we're heading towards our end game, that we're not going to put the genie back in the bottle. Because totally, people are not going to do that. Large numbers of people are not. They're going to see something's happening they didn't think were happening before. So what we need to do, we can't put the genie back in the bottle, but what we can do is stop it getting out any further. And so what we're going to do is focus their attention that the conspiracy is right-wing politics and or the manipulation of politics, right-wing being the answer. And religion, and that's what's happened. And so when I see people within that arena, people like Candace Owens, for instance. Now I've got respect for Candace Owens in some of the things she's spoken out about, but in the middle of all this, she's just converted to Roman Catholicism, not just to Christianity. She was always Christian, but to Roman Catholicism. And there's a Dutch activist called Eva Vlandingerbroek who did the same a bit earlier. There's the wife of Jordan Peterson and what have you, and you and others. And you go, hold on a minute. I mean, look at the history of the Roman Church. Look how many people it slaughtered for having the wrong opinion, and look at the rigidity of the belief system, and you are joining that. You know, and you say you're an open-minded researcher. You can't be if you are fusing your belief system with that one, because whatever you think about it, it's a belief system. That's what it is. And so what lies, what knowledge, what awareness, what insight lies beyond the walls of that belief system? Well, you won't go there anymore, or you're not a Roman Catholic. You're a blasphemer. I mean, same with other religions like Islam. And this is a point I make in the reveal. It's staring us in the face so much is, if only we would take that step back and breathe and look at it again. It's staring us in the face that these are not naturally occurring belief systems that come from looking at the evidence. They
No.
are what you have heard in your formative years and beyond. So
Yes.
if you were a vehement Christian in the southern states of America, if you were, a Candace Owens, shall we say, or similar, then if you were born in the Middle East, you would now be a vociferous Muslim.
Right.
You were born in India, you'd be a vociferous Hindu.
Right.
So why is it that if you're born to a Hindu family or a Muslim family or a Muslim culture, Hindu culture, Christian culture, that you will almost certainly, less with Christianity, but with the other two big time, you will become a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu.
Yeah.
And you mix and match those people and you make them born in different places, and you will have different belief systems.
Absolutely.
In the same mind. And I'll give you a quick example before I finish on this point. Back in 1993, the only time I could go, after that they would never let me in, I went to Israel. I was there for about 3 days. And I wanted to look around and just, get a feel for the place, and its, the way it was at the time. And I found myself standing in the old city, because Jerusalem has got the old city, which is within the walls of the old city. And outside of it is the great sprawl of Jerusalem. So I'm in the old city, and I'm next to that mosque with the golden dome, area. What Israelis or Jewish Israelis and Christians call Temple Mount, much beloved of the Knights Templar long ago. And there's some Muslim kids playing football, and I watched it, and only little kids, and they were, kicking the ball around and all that stuff.
Right.
And it dawned on me, because this old city of Jerusalem is very small, but it's broken up into 4 quarters. There's a Muslim quarter, a Christian quarter, a Jewish quarter, and an Armenian quarter. Wow. And I'm watching these little Muslim kids playing football, and I thought, if these kids were born literally in the old city of Jerusalem, down the street in another quarter, they would already have a very different view of life, of God, of religion, and other people of other religions. Yep. Because it's literally a program. It has to be, otherwise Hindus wouldn't become Hindus on the scale they do. Muslims wouldn't become Muslims, etc., etc. And this is why I say, let's just take a step back and just look at it dispassionately again, and reach our own conclusions without our conclusions being handed to us, and not least through fear, through family pressure and cultural pressure. And just go with what we believe. We believe, the I believes, rather than what the cultural setting is telling us to believe.
Right. So well put. I mean, I see what you're saying, and I was speaking to someone who told me, similar to what you write in your book, when you're connecting to a specific kind of energy and you're putting your attention and focus on it, then there's going to be some reciprocal exchange that happens, whether you realize it or not. And when I see the world, I feel like we've come under this dark cloud of influence. But I don't know if I would necessarily go so far as to say that, I mean, certainly I would say it's being run by, but I wouldn't say it was put into creation by. I guess I'm a little more optimistic. I feel like we could still turn it around, and we could still create, this idea of heaven with this beautiful planet that we were given. You know, that
Yeah,
it's all
but
here.
I think it's important I make this clear. I'm not saying there is no, quote, God, what I call the infinite. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying what created this reality that we're experiencing and the next reality interpenetrating it in terms of frequency, which people call the astral, particularly the lower end of it, was created by this ungodly force, if you like. And that beyond that, in terms of frequency, is infinity, what some people want to call God. Okay, I have a problem with that. Just because I'm saying this was created by a negative force doesn't mean that I'm denying the existence of a non-negative force beyond it. Okay, let's look at it this way. I say to those people who are kind of upset with that, who created COVID then? Who created the COVID vaccine then? Oh, well, so negative force did. It was Gates and all those, but yes. So is it too much of a stretch to think that exactly the same is happening in terms of our reality? It's all these perceptually unquestioning beliefs. You know, oh, God must have created this reality. Well, he's not a very loving bloody God then, is he? Look at it. Wake up and see beyond it. Now, if you are a negative force, what I'm describing in The Reveal and other books, and you're feeding off low vibrational human energy based around fear. I mean, you talked a few minutes ago, mate, about there being this focus of attention, and therefore we're influenced by what we're focusing upon. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what's happening. You know, if you focus your attention, your belief system, that's what belief systems are. They're a focus of attention upon a religious belief. Then all these belief systems, religious, cultural, political, they are all in their base state an energetic field that's vibrating with information that relates to the belief system. And it becomes a two-way thing. It's influencing you by your attention on it, your frequency connection to it, and you are also influencing it and empowering it by believing in it. It's going like that all the time. And so it's the same with a belief in the fact that this reality was created by a loving God, even though it's massively contradicted by the way people live and the suffering that people have. And so you have to, because it's cognitive dissonance, you have to go into another state of denial where you can try to explain away the fact that you believe a loving God is behind this, and yet look at it and look at the suffering that goes on and the war and the conflict and the kids currently in Gaza. So you say that it's part of God's plan. Way much of a bloody plan where I'm sitting.
I hear you.
Or the reincarnation belief.
That's what I was going to ask
that
about
we're
next.
coming into this reality to learn lessons, to evolve. I mean, you know, and I even hear, you know, people in the one God, one life belief system religions, where they're saying that we come here to help us evolve, right? So
learn and evolve.
Let's just play this through a second. Those religions, Christianity, Islam, etc., that believe we have one life and that's it, and then we're judged by God. Okay, so some people have a life of over 100 years. Some people have a life of a few seconds. Yeah. If you don't believe in Jesus, you can't get to heaven. How does a baby alive a few seconds ever get to know there is a Jesus or believe in Jesus, more like, rather than and therefore get to heaven? I watched a Roman Catholic channel in America when I was over there a long time ago, but best part of 25 years ago. And this distraught woman came on the phone to this priest saying that her child had died at a very young age, a baby, unable therefore to know anything about Jesus or Christianity. And she asked him, how would he be judged then? What would God do about him? And I think the guy's knickers are still twisted, trying to explain an explanation that's unexplainable. Yeah. So what kind of God judges a baby after a few seconds of life in this reality?
No loving God would
and it judges someone else over 100 years. I mean, all the different backgrounds that you are born into. And all the influences, often negative, that you're born into, which bring out negativity in you, but you're still going to be judged by in the same way as the one that had all the privileges. I mean, come on, man. People. Think again. Have another look at it, because these are the cul-de-sacs. That's what I see them as. We're on a freeway. And we're heading down the freeway in the understanding of whatever we know, there's always more to know, always more to know, always more to know. And you have these slip roads on the freeway that are placed in there to get you off that road. And one of the major one is religion. They're cul-de-sacs. They take you off the freeway, down the slip road, and into a cul-de-sac, a dead end. And there you sit. Yeah. Denying that anyone else can have anything to say if it's outside your belief system. And you are upset about the Muslim religion, and they are seeing you in exactly the same terms as you're seeing them. It's like...
It's a cycle.
I described this world once as like putting 20, 30 balls of wool in a tiny room, putting 20, 30 kittens in there, locking the door and coming back 2 hours, 3 hours later, and someone's saying, sort that out. Right. But it's because if you're going to control billions of people, you have to control their perception, because from their perception comes their behavior. If you want to control their behavior, control their perception. And you control their perception by the information they're allowed to have, which is what censorship's all about, and it's what religion is all about, as well as cultural and political belief systems.
So if reincarnation is part of this trap, it's part of this kind of hoodwink that is being perpetrated on the human being here on Earth, then I guess, because there are many people, I think, myself included, who, take comfort in the fact that there is no end to me, truly. There's no, they could call it death, but the truth is there's no extinguishing the part of me that is going to continue on. And so... And then I guess you just assume, like, okay, well, whatever will be my next adventure. But I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. But I had never thought about it in the way that you have laid it out, from the perspective you've laid it out. As terms of we are being manipulated on the astral level, as well as on the physical. It's becoming painfully clear to everyone who has functioning brain that we are being manipulated. But on the astral level, I think that's a whole nother thing. And this was the first time I had even begun to contemplate if could that be? Could that really be what's happening? And when you put it into the equation of what it does make a lot of sense. But what's the answer, David?
Well, let's just look as briefly as I can, briefly for me, at how I came to these conclusions. I have been obviously rejecting the one life and then judged by God belief system all my life. I've long not accepted that death is the end, and I've never been more blatantly certain of it ever than I am now. It's just a transfer of attention. That's what death is, and maybe we could get into actually how that operates at some point. But certainly, I started to realize that reincarnation was real. And it made a lot more sense, obviously. What I didn't accept is the reason for it, as I go into in the reveal in some great detail. I've traveled around the world, particularly in the last 35 years. I can't do it at the moment because I'm banned from nearly 30 European countries and Australia and a lot more if I try to get in them. Must be something I said. Funnily enough, all these people, the big stars of the alternative media currently, they can go anywhere they like, and they're still on YouTube. And I was off that in 2020 when I exposed the COVID hoax. It's quite extraordinary, funny, really. So I was traveling around the world, and like I said earlier, I was seeing people in Africa and Asia and South America and Central America that are not having a good time. They're trying to survive another day.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I can understand how consciousness, which is, I say, is the real I, can be manipulated and tricked into coming into this reality once. But when you leave the body, I couldn't see that people would say or not say, in vast numbers, well, I ain't going back there. That was horrible.
Right.
But by that time, I could see that reincarnation was real. And there's a guy that I, for instance, quote in the reveal called Ian Stevenson. He was a American Canadian a psychiatrist who was born in the early years of the 20th century, died about 2007. And he started coming across very young children who were remembering past lives in fine detail, great detail, names, places, what places looked like. They were describing houses, the internal makeup of houses that they'd never been in detail. And so what he started doing was checking it out, and he checked it out on the basis of trying to debunk it by trying to find that what these little children were saying didn't turn out to be true. He found the opposite. And he did thousands of these studies around the world, and realized that reincarnation is real. And he wrote books about it and studies about it, and it's fascinating to read. There was one young boy who I feature in the story in the reveal, who claimed that he was the former husband in another life of a woman who was still alive. So they checked it out, and he was describing accurately where they lived and all that. And then when he brought them together, the wife and family said to him, "But if you are who you say you were, we could never find your will. Where's the will?" And the boy walked across to a point on the floor, a particular floorboard, and he said, "It's under here." And they took the floorboard up, and there was the will.
Oh my
And
God.
what Stevenson found was that by around the age of 7, the influences of this reality and its programming basically made those memories fade. Sometimes it goes into adulthood, but it's rarer. And even among kids remembering, it's relatively rare.
Yes.
And there's a reason for that, which I go into in the reveal. But the point being that I could see that reincarnation was real, but why would anyone want to come back here?
Right.
And what I've been doing now for years and years is reading the accounts of what are called near-death experiences, where their body dies and their consciousness finds itself in another reality, overwhelmingly the astral reality, which interpenetrates this and is very, very close on the dial, but not close enough for us to see it,
Right.
be visually aware of it. And the common themes they describe are enormous. I mean, they are
Yes.
very, very compelling. And basically, what I saw is how this other world, this so-called afterlife or spirit world, in terms of dynamics, is the same as this one. Obviously, the astral dimension is much less dense than this reality,
Right.
this human reality, this dense frequency of matter, which is incredibly dense, incredibly dense. No wonder, people struggle with it. And when people leave the body, or actually the body leaves them, in truth, we might come to that, they enter a reality that's much, much less energetically dense, and to them it feels fantastic
Yeah.
by comparison with what they've been experiencing in the human reality. But if you look at the human world, people are constantly looking to authority in all its forms to tell them what to think, to tell them how to see things, to tell them what to do. It might be an expert on this, a science expert,
Right.
a doctor expert, whatever. And so we are looking to authority because we are basically encouraged to believe that we're just little me. We have no power.
Right.
We don't know anything. We've got to listen to the experts. But then when you read these near-death experiences, the dynamic is the same. When they leave the body, they first of all say, I felt something, I felt a reality, an energy, a love, a bliss that I'd never felt before. And then you say, well, you believe in reincarnation. Well, yeah. Well, why haven't you felt it before? There's a reason for that. It's the same reason that we don't overwhelmingly remember past lives.
Right.
But what happens then in these near-death accounts is that they are faced with authority figures. They're faced with spirit guides or some religious hero, depending on their religious belief system in the human experience, or loved ones or whatever who they think are loved ones, and because they've left the body and they're bewildered and they don't know what's going on, they do what the authority figure tells them, and they go up the tunnel to the light, or to the light in another form, and then they enter this Buddhist wheel of samsara, where you go through these bardos and come back, these intermediate bardos, between life bardos, are their sections of, I guess, enlightenment or lack of it.
Right.
And then you come back into the human world with a completely different, often, personality to what you had before.
Right.
And you go on. So, for instance, under this process, someone like Alex Jones might, if he goes through this wheel of samsara and comes back, could well be anti-conspiracy, you know. And this is the point, you know, why I'm so vehement in what I'm saying and what I'm doing to challenge this as best you can with shadow banning of this mainstream kind of alternative takeover. It's because if you believe that Trump is the answer and he's going to be the savior along with Musk and all these other people, then you're kidding yourself. Right. First of all, even if Trump was genuine, I don't believe he is for a second. Right. But even if he is, what's going to happen in 4 years' time? Someone else is going to take over. Right. And you're not getting to the core of actually what is going on. So you can say, "Oh yeah, we did this, we did that," and then you leave the body and you come back being anti what you believed in now. I mean, where does that end? It doesn't end, because you're not getting to the core of what's happening, and therefore, how can you find an answer to something when you don't know the core of what's happening? Right. And so, one of the things that that I quote in the book, or one of the some of the people I quote in the book, are these very rare people that say they remember their incarnation process. Right. And two things are very common in that. One is that when they enter this reality, there is a form of electromagnetic field, which when they go through it, in the vast overwhelming majority of cases, not their case, obviously they remember some of it, but the overwhelming majority of cases wipes their memories. Right. It's a bit like the old videotapes that you used to rub over a magnetic field to clean them up so you could use them again. Right. Same principle, much more advanced, obviously. And the other common theme is just how dense energetically this reality is. I mean, phenomenally dense, to the point where you could almost not experience it. It's so challenging. So we need to be kind to ourselves for a start, because we're in a very, very challenging reality here. But the thing is that I see the three basic states of being. One is the human state, where you are experiencing this reality through a vehicle. Right. At the level of consciousness, awareness, obviously that is vibrating far too quickly to interact with this reality. Right. You couldn't tap the keys on a computer. You couldn't turn the light off or on. It's because you're not nowhere near the frequency of the light switch or the computer keys. But so we take on this outer shell called a human body, which allows us to interact with the world we want to interact with, because it's operating in the same frequency band as that world. And the nature of the human body we might get into shortly, because that explains a lot. And then you have a point where we die. And what does that mean? It means that the human body ceases to function. It ceases to become the vehicle. And so your consciousness is released, and suddenly it's in another reality. And that reality, that astral reality, I say, is where we are at a level of energetic outer shell that we call the soul. Yeah. And the soul then incarnates back into this reality. But the soul is an outer shell. It's a shell that is at an energetic frequency that can interact with the astral dimension. Right. But there's another level that I call in the reveal, the spirit, which is a state of awareness. And all these things are states of awareness in their base form. There's a state of awareness that I call spirit, where we self-identify with being pure consciousness. No body, no external form, just consciousness, a state of being aware. And I say that's what lies beyond this, what I say is a simulated reality created by this negative force or matrix. That's what lies beyond it, pure consciousness, able to be free of this contrived, simulated virtual reality that we call the human and the astral world. And it's well established even in mainstream science that every time we feel an emotion or have a thought, we are generating frequencies that relate in terms of their frequency to the emotion and thoughts that we're having. And the key to it all, I would suggest, is self-identity. If you self-identify who you are, the I, with the human body, then you're self-identifying with limitation. You're self-identifying with the labels of a human life that are not you at all. They're just what you're experiencing. Right. But the perception of that I means that your perceptions become your energetic field, the energetic field and the frequency it's operating on. So the more myopia you go into, the lower your frequency. Right. The denser your frequency. You then go into the realm of soul, which is obviously a much higher frequency. Yeah. Outside the human body. But you're still self-identifying with an external form. Right. An external, I would say, illusion. And therefore, that will hold you in this other level of what I call the simulation. If you self-identify with just being pure spirit, pure consciousness, pure awareness, a pure state of being aware, ultimately, if you open your consciousness infinitely, you are all consciousness, then you start to generate levels of frequency, and in the end, another story, no frequency, that will just allow you to leave this nonsense once you leave the body. Freedom. And this awareness is what they're trying to keep from us. They want us in the human form to identify with being a cosmic accident. That's the ideal. Right. Completely shuts us out. That does. But they're quite happy with you thinking you have a soul, because that is still in the matrix, just in another level of it. What we call the fake heaven, or the afterlife, or the spirit world. Right. And it is a fake heaven. What people want to call heaven is beyond the matrix. It's in the infinite. And so they're quite happy with that, because you're still in the game. You're still in their control. What they don't want you to believe is that you are pure consciousness, and all this stuff is manipulated nonsense. And why is it manipulated nonsense? It's to control our perception, not least our self-identity and sense of self, because if they control that, they control your frequency, and they keep you in the matrix.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. That puts it all together for me in a mind-blowing way. I know we're low on time, but I before I let you go, David, I would love for you to speak a little bit about heart wisdom and just how powerful this part of our physical apparatus is, and what it all the incredible, I want to say, there's so much more. It's obviously more than just a physical part of our body, the heart. But I love hearing you speak about it. So before I let you go, I was wondering if you could finish with a little bit about the heart.
Well, if I could just very briefly, before I come to that, just mention one thing I think will be very helpful to people to put this into perspective, and that is what the body is. I've been calling the body since the 1990s a biological computer, and what it's doing is decoding this simulation. That's its job. So what is the simulation? It's an energetic field of information, very much akin to Wi-Fi. We've got wonderful analogies now with this technological world, because this technological reality that's unfolding is mirroring technologically the way we create reality.
Right.
So what the body is doing is decoding the information field, the Wi-Fi, if you like, into this reality we perceive as physical, which you've only got to go into the quantum realm to see that there is no physical. It's holographic, and it's a decoding process, and the body's decoding it. That's what it does. And the reason that near-death experiencers describe a completely different reality when they leave the body, when the body dies, is because when the body dies, it ceases to function. It ceases to decode the simulation at this level, and therefore it's not delivering that reality to you anymore, because you're in another reality suddenly, because the body's not focusing your attention. That's what the body's doing. You know, I say that by the the earliest age that children can grasp this, they should all be told that when you look through your eyes, you can't see everything in the space you're looking at. You can only see a tiny band of frequency, which science calls visible light. And to put that into perspective, according to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum, which is basically human reality as we experience it, is 0.005% of what exists in the universe in terms of energy. And visible light is a tiny fraction of that 0.005%. Now, I say that's no accident that we can see visually this ludicrously small band of frequency. Because if we could see more into the frequency band, we would see into the astral and we'd see what the hell was going on. So we're not. We are kept in this tiny band of frequency. And I say that and I support this in the books. I mean, the reveal is part of a trilogy: the trap, the dream, and the last one of the trilogy, the reveal. And I say there's a program running through the body, like a software program, and it's basically running your life. And if you don't override that, as everybody can, with consciousness beyond the program, and the whole point of the human experience of manipulation is to focus your attention only in that band of frequency on which the program is running, and not expand beyond it so that you can override the program. If the program is running your life, then the thoughts you're having and the decisions you're making are not actually yours in terms of consciousness. They're the program running. And you become a bit like a non-player character in a virtual reality game. The game's playing you. You're not playing the game.
That's right.
And once you start to... This is what awakening is. This is what awakening is. What is awakening? It's deprogramming. It's deprogramming perception to allow you to remember who you have always been, but you've been manipulated to forget. That this awakening deprogramming is you overriding the program running through that's telling you who you are, where you are, and what a little me you are, and you're going into levels of consciousness that override that. And that's why when people go through this awakening process, and so many people are now, hallelujah, they say they see the world completely differently. And they say things to me often, why couldn't I see it before? It's so bloody obvious. Well, not to that, it's not. It's obvious to that, but it's not to that. And that's where they want to keep us. And that's where the alternative media, with its focus on politics and religion, that's what it's doing. Not by accident either, I would suggest. So we are like the body is like a headset in a virtual reality game.
Right.
If you put a headset on, and even with the sophisticated ones, the gloves, the touch senses, and the audio, what a virtual reality game is doing is overriding the five senses and what they would normally decode into this reality.
Right.
But you see videos on the internet of compilations of people with the headset on and what happens, and their sense of reality is overridden, is taken over within seconds. They're jumping around, they're falling off their chair, they're screaming.
I saw one grandmother got so mad she pulled out a knife after they took the headset off. She was so mad about what happened in the game. She pulled out a knife and they had to tackle her. I was like, oh my God.
Well, that's how fast your reality is taken over when your brain, which is decoding all this and producing this in ways that even mainstream science is has understood, but not grasped what it's actually doing.
Right.
The headset is feeding you a reality, and your brain is decoding it and manifesting it, and you are affected emotionally and mentally by it.
Right.
And you still have a thing with a headset where you can take it off and realize it's just a game and you're back in the room that you were in before. But if you have a body, a human body that is a biological computer that is actually processing this Wi-Fi field, information field matrix into a reality that we think we're experiencing, then you can only take it off when you, quote, die. And when you take it off at what we call death of the body, that's when people experience a completely different reality, which they describe in near-death experiences. And so you are in a situation where the way to override that program that's telling you what to believe about yourself and the world is to become conscious beyond it, and then you start to see it, and that's what we call awakening.
Absolutely.
So in terms of the heart, I wanted to get that over. I wanted to get that over because it's
no, it's good.
It's
I
part
always
of
assume
the
everyone else
pieces
read
in
your
the
book.
puzzle, and that there are other pieces in the puzzle we'll have to do another time. But or you can get them in the reveal. But in terms of the heart, for me, that spirit. That what the ancients called that divine spark lies in the heart during a human incarnation.
Yeah.
And what they're trying to do is close the heart. And when you close the heart, you move to the head. And the head becomes the arbiter of decision-making, perception, everything. And when you're in the heart, you're in a completely different point of perception of the world. And so they're trying to close the heart, and so they're hitting us with reasons to fear, to be anxious, to be to be fearful, to be depressed, to be resentful, to be regretful. All these things, they're all low vibrational emotional states, which, as I go into in the reveal, these entities that are behind the matrix are feeding off. That's why they want us in this low vibrational, fear-based sense of being. They have no interest in us being happy and joyful or whatever, because they can't absorb that energy, because they're in a low vibrational frequency themselves that resonates to low vibrational human emotion and thought, and so they want us in that mode, because then we are generating it. And that's why in the Matrix movies, the first one, I was just thinking of that. When the Morpheus character held up the battery and said the Matrix is a computer-generated dream world designed to turn humans into one of these, it was a profound truth being spoken there. That's the reason this simulation has been created, to trawl low vibrational human energy. And to do that, you have to keep putting people in situations, look at the world, that will generate that energy. So when you go into the heart, you start to override that. You start to go into that level that I call spirit, which can override the program and expand your consciousness, so that you see more and more and more of the energetic field, more and more of the information, insight, knowledge, awareness that's available in that field. The more you expand into it, and from that you start to see the world in a completely more expanded way. And this is why, in terms of the heart, the spirit, this is why, in terms of overriding the fake I, what I call the phantom self, and connecting with the true I, consciousness, awareness, spirit, is self-identity. Because this is the key. This is the key to everything. Over the years, I've seen all these different ways, these new age ways, these cultural ways to awaken and what have you. And they all seem so very complicated often. I say it's dead simple. Dead simple. There's no need for all that. If you want to do it. But there's no need for all that. The basic foundation to get out of this nonsense and to return to the true I is to identify with the true I. To identify not with the labels of a human life, they're just an experience. Not even to identify with the labels of the soul, that's just another experience. It's to identify with being pure consciousness, spirit. Instead of being the body, that's who I am, you are the consciousness, awareness that is experiencing briefly through the body. When you go, if you go into the astral, you are experiencing the astral via the soul, as it's called. But you're still in the matrix. You go beyond that by self-identifying with being pure consciousness, no form. That's all kind of they're just vehicles. We are the consciousness that's experiencing through them. And in that way, I say anyway, you can experience infinity beyond the matrix in all its forms, astral, while still in a human body. And once you do that, everything changes. First of all, when you leave the body, you'll be out of here and the astral gone, because you're not being held in that frequency band by your perceptions of identity. And you'll be able to see things from a vastly greater picture than you will if you're stuck in the body 5 sense program. So self-identity, that's the key. And it's not just a concept. It's not just, I conceptually accept that that's what I am. No, it's a being.
Right.
It's a being. This is who I am. And what happens when you go through that process of reevaluating your self-identity is that not only do you see the world differently, the world is different.
Yeah.
And what you find is you are withdrawing more and more from the drama that we're presented with. Because if you want to get people to believe in what is actually an induced dream, that's what this is,
right,
then you pull them in through drama. And, you know, you see the drama queens and
how good
at
that are they? My God.
What have you? Like,
Masters
you know, oh, you'll never guess what's happened now. Oh, you know, this, that, and the other. Always a drama going on.
Always.
But, I mean, you look at the news. What are you looking at? You're looking at a drama being played out. And all of it. And what happens when you start to reevaluate your self-identity and expand it is that you move off the stage. You stop being an actor in the drama and you start to observe the drama.
Right.
And it's a bit like the difference between, well, it's very much like the difference between a dream which you believe is real,
yeah,
which makes you react emotionally and mentally and wake up in a sweat saying, I've had a nightmare, and a lucid dream where you're in a dream, but you know it's a dream.
Yeah.
So you become an observer of the dream, and you're not emotionally and
right.
and mentally
sometimes even change the dream,
impacted by the dream because you've observed it. And what happens as you expand this sense of self-identity, and again, it's a process that goes on and on and on, is that you become an observer of this dream. Doesn't mean you don't interact with it and try to make a difference. I don't think I can be accused of not doing that.
Right.
But you're not affected by it in the same way. And something else, if you're an actor on the stage, then you see the next actor.
Right.
But if you're in the audience watching the drama and not being part of it, you see the whole picture.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yeah. That's so well put. And I love what you said about one of the fastest ways, and I think people could truly, in a visceral sense, remember or find out what it feels like to be plugged into the infinite is through the heart. I always learn so much by talking to you, David. I know we ran over, and I apologize. But I'm so grateful for your time. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, we will.
You know, because there's just so much to talk about, but you know, as usual, my mind is blown, and you have me thinking about you know, many things. And I'm grateful for your time. I know how busy you are, and you know, you're the man. I nothing but respect and admiration for everything you're doing, and my love to you and your family. And tell your daughter I'm sorry I held you a little late. It's my fault. Yeah.
Well, that's very kind of you. And we'll talk again.
Absolutely,
because
David.
Whatever we've discussed, there's always more to know.
That's right. Absolutely. Thank you again, my friend. You take care.
Thanks, mate.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.